I am there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. I can see you. All
Fantastic.
right. What a lovely bookshelf you have behind you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I look at that and I start wondering what kind of books you've got on there, where you got them from. Every book has a story, I'm sure.
They pretty much all do. Yeah, absolutely. I'm in my library at home in my library, and yeah, I love this place.
Well, it looks great. You're looking great. Great shirt as well. I'm going to leave it up to you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question or you'd like to challenge Alexander or you're curious about something, into the chat. And hopefully at the end, when we have a little bit of time, we can have an exchange with questions as well. Alexander, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for having me speak. And I want to talk about happiness at work. And that's the work I've been doing for the last 20 years, almost, since 2003, when I founded my current company. I do have to correct you a little bit, Peter. My company's not called Woohoo. It's called Woohoo. And we make people happy at work. Basically, what we do is that we go around the world and give speeches and talks at companies and conferences. I have spoken in over 50 countries. I was just in Tunisia a few weeks ago for the first time to speak. And tell companies how to become happier and more successful workplaces. I have written a couple of books. Those are them. And we work with, like I said, with clients all over the world. These are just a few of our clients. And you may ask yourself, why are big corporations like these all over the world interested in happiness at work? And I think it's because they've realized a very, very simple fact, which is that happy companies make more money, okay? I don't think a lot of these companies are in it for the altruism or to be nice. I think they realize that if they want to be successful, if they want to be innovative, if they want to change, if they want to be productive, if they want to be more profitable, they need their employees to be happy. And there is so much research that shows that happy companies perform better. Why? I'm glad you asked. Here are some of the reasons. If you look at the individual employee, we collect this research, we collect all of these studies, and these are all of the effects we've found so far. So we know, for instance, that happy employees are more productive. They get more work done in the same amount of time compared to people who are not happy at work. We know they're more creative and innovative. I think you know this from your own life, that if you are in a good mood, if you're feeling good, your mind is more open to new ideas, and you can be more creative and innovative. We know that happy people sell better. We know that when employees are happy, they make the customer happy and the customer comes back. I'm not going to go through the whole list because there are so many effects, positive effects of happiness at work, but you can look at this list and ask yourself, for the employees in your company, for the business you're in, which of these effects would be, most helpful to your industry, to your organization, to the work you do. Just know that all of these effects have been proven in the research and that happy employees do a better job. Which of course also means that happy workplaces make more money. And here are the effects on the workplace as a whole. And again, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but we do know that happy workplaces are more productive. We do know that happy workplaces have lower absenteeism rates. I've worked with clients where they started out as unhappy organization and they had absenteeism rates of 10, 15%. So every single day, 10 to 15% of their employees were out sick. I think you can imagine what that does to an organization. Whereas many happy companies have absenteeism rates of like 2 to 3%. It's not hard to calculate how much that saves an industry, how much that saves a company. We know that happy organizations have happy customers. They have happier, higher customer loyalty. Customers keep coming back. We know that they have lower employee turnover rates. This is not exactly rocket science, right? If an employee likes their job, they're happy there, they're going to stay with the company longer. So that saves you a ton of money on recruitment costs and training costs. And finally, of course, higher profits, higher stock prices, and higher growth are also results of happiness at work. So that's, I think, why we get hired again and again by a lot of these big companies is because they realize that happiness at work is not just nice. It's a great idea. And again, the research shows that there are so many reasons why happy companies make more money. But I also think part of the reason why they hire us is that they get it wrong. Because if they understand that happiness at work is so great, why aren't all of these workplaces already happy? And I'll tell you why. It's because they do the wrong things. I'll give you an example. I spoke at a big HR conference in Istanbul a few years ago, and I talked to the HR manager of a big company there, and they said, Alex, we can't understand why our employees are not happy. We give them free smoothies, we give them coffee, we give them massages, we gave them a gym in the office, and they're still not happy. What is wrong? Why are people so spoiled? And I'll tell you what's wrong. The problem is that you're doing all the wrong things. I think companies have the best of intentions, but they waste so much energy, so much time, and so much money on all of these perks and benefits that have no proven effect on happiness at work. These things will not make your company happier, will not make your employees like their jobs more. They're nice enough, but they're not what make us happy. Here's the difference. These things make employees satisfied. And job satisfaction is not the same as happiness at work. But I think so many companies waste so much time and energy and money on making their employees satisfied instead of happy. So what's the difference? It's very simple. Job satisfaction is what employees think about their jobs. When they sit down and rationally evaluate their job situation, and they come to like a logical conclusion, am I satisfied or not? That is job satisfaction. But happiness at work is what you feel about your job. On a perfectly normal day like today, are your employees at work feeling good, feeling proud of the work they do, feeling interested in learning new things, feeling like they connect with the business, feeling like they're appreciated as people in the organization? Or are they experiencing a lot of negative emotions like fear, stress, or anger? And here's the point I want to make is that all of those positive effects that I mentioned, like being more productive or more creative or more, or more lower absenteeism, is not connected very well with satisfaction at work. It's connected very well with happiness at work. So if you want your employees to be more effective, you can't focus on satisfaction. You have to focus on making them happy, on making them feel better about their jobs. That is not to say that this is easy, but it is actually fairly simple. But you can't just focus on satisfaction. You can't focus on all of that stuff, the massages and the gyms, because you can't buy happiness at work. That's not how it works. And the research is very clear on this. So what does make employees happy at work? If it's not smoothies and massages and gyms in the office and yoga classes, what is it? We've looked extensively at the research, and there's a ton of great research on this. And we believe that it comes down to two main factors, two things that make people happy at work, and that's where we need to focus. Let's look at those two factors. First is results. People love doing a good job. What really makes us happy at work is knowing that I make a difference, I can use my skills and competencies, I can pick up new skills and get even better at my job, I can achieve my goals, I can make a difference. There is so much research showing that when people have this feeling of results, that this feeling that, I matter, I make a difference, I'm important, I'm needed, they're really, really happy at work. On the other hand, if people feel like, I'm not very good at my job, I'll probably be fired soon, there's no way they can be happy at work. So this feeling of results, showing people that they do a good job, helping them to do the best job possible, is super important. And especially when we give them meaningful results. When we show people that they're good at what they do and their work makes a difference, their work matters, their work helps somebody, either the client or co-workers inside the organization or whatever. So this feeling of results is absolutely crucial for making people happy at work. And can I lower? I don't think I have volume on. I got a text from the. Okay, also there we go. Sorry. So one thing that makes employees happy at work is results, and the other one is equally important, and that's relationships. We know from the research that when employees have good relationships at work, they're happy at work. We also know that when they have bad relationships, people are miserable in the workplace. And I'm not saying we all have to be best friends in the workplace, but we need this feeling that, I am part of the group, I am accepted, people like me for who I am valued in the workplace, not just as a resource, but also as a human being. So having a good relationship with your immediate coworkers is very, very important. And absolutely crucial is having a good relationship with your immediate manager. We know that when people have a bad relationship with their manager, they are miserable at work. So that's where we need to focus. That's what really makes employees happy at work. It's results and relationships. And the cool thing here is that these things are actually quite kind of they're not expensive. Putting a gym in the office costs a ton of money, and people usually never go, right? But giving people results and relationships is actually not that expensive. It's something you can do in any workplace on any budget. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to do it. But the cool thing is that it's a lot cheaper, and it actually works. It actually works. Whereas all of those perks are not going to make your employees any happier. Now, that is not to say that we can ignore the perks, the salaries, the bonuses, the promotions, that kind of thing, because those things need to be fair. Okay. We know that when employees perceive their salary or their bonuses, their perks, their compensations to be unfair, that can make them unhappy. But we also know that those things, once they are fair, increasing them above that level does not make people any happier. It just makes them satisfied, and that's really important to know. That distinction between happiness at work and satisfaction. Yes. So how do we do it? I want to give 3 tips that any workplace could do to create more happiness at work. And first of all, I think you got to train your managers. Now, a lot of managers don't know about this. They don't know how that it's important, happiness at work. They don't know how to do it. And it's not something you learn as part of your MBA or in business school anywhere, right? This is still very new for a lot of people. So we got to teach them, or they won't learn. My favorite example of a company that does this is Southwest Airlines, where their manager, Herb Kelleher, said, it has to be job 1. It can't slip to being job 2, 3, 4, or 5, because then you've lost it. No matter how busy you get, taking care of your employees, being interested in them, communicating with them, honoring them, has to be job 1. And you have to train your managers to understand this and train them on how to do it so they can actually make their employees happy. We know that. We know from the research that the number 1 factor that makes employees happy or unhappy at work is the manager. It's the leadership. And looking at results and relationships, I believe that the best leaders are very, very good at relationships, because at the end of the day, as a leader, as a manager, you don't lead spreadsheets, you don't lead machines, you don't lead, the office, you lead people, and you need to understand people and how they work. And the best leaders are just very, very good at relationships. I always say that you shouldn't lead other people if you don't like other people. It really is that simple. We need people who are interested in managers. So we need to train managers on happiness at work, and the flip side is that we need to stop the bad managers, because every organization has people who just they should not be managers. They're rude, they're abusive. They say that 2% of the population has psychopathic traits, but 10% of managers have psychopathic traits. And those managers need to go. If you can't treat your people well, if you can't treat your people with respect, if as a manager you can't make your employees happy, then you should not be a manager. And I think we're seeing a fantastic example right now with Elon Musk at Twitter. Twitter, by all accounts, had a great culture before he came in. And in just the 2.5 weeks since he took over the organization, he has made it a place that is dominated by frustration, anxiety, and fear. And I have a prediction. I predict that by the end of this year, Twitter will not be around in the form that we know it now. It is going to go under completely. And this will go down in business history, as an example of how not to lead an organization. This is absolutely terrible. So that was tip number 1. Train your managers to be good managers, to make their employees happy, because they don't know how. And get rid of the bad managers. Tip number 2, measure happiness and connect it to business results. I mean, anything that's important in a business, we tend to measure. And happiness at work is super important, so we should measure that as well. And connect it to important business metrics like employee turnover, like productivity, like quality, like customer satisfaction, and so on and so on and so on. And I just want to say that most companies don't do this. Most companies still measure satisfaction. That's why they have the annual job satisfaction surveys, and those suck. They have almost no value in most organizations. You do them once a year. They have way too many questions. They have the wrong questions. You don't get relevant data because the next satisfaction survey is like 6 months from now. So if employees are unhappy now, there's no way to figure it out. Um, this, by the way, measuring happiness is also a good way to figure out who are the bad managers. So you can either train them to become better or get rid of them. But measuring happiness at work is absolutely crucial. And there's a great presentation in just an hour and a half where you can learn exactly how to do it by Tiana. You should absolutely not miss that. That'll show you exactly how most companies measure happiness at work wrong and how to do it right. And the final tip I want to give you is my favorite tip. If there's like only one thing a company should do, it should be this. It's more positive feedback. Employees everywhere cry out for positive feedback. We know, again, from the research that positive feedback has so many great effects on employees, makes them, again, more creative, more productive, makes them happier, and also helps promote best practices because we tell people what they do well so they can do it again. Ton of research on this. But in many companies, we don't give employees positive feedback. We give them a lot of negative feedback. In many organizations, if an employee does something well, they never hear a word. But if they make one mistake, they're instantly punished. And I think we need to flip that around. Of course, we need to give negative feedback when it's necessary, but we need to really promote positive feedback. When employees get positive feedback, it gives them a feeling of results, a feeling that I make a difference, I'm good at my job. And it gives them relationships because it shows them that we see you and we value you and we're glad you're here. So this positive feedback is incredibly, incredibly important. On my blog, I'm going to give you some links in just a second. On my blog, I have an article on on all the business benefits of positive feedback, and 5 great tips on how to do it. So that was my overview tour of happiness at work. And I just want to make the point that, again, it is incredibly important. I personally believe that creating a happy workplace is the number one business success factor. It matters more than anything else. Again, we'll make your business more profitable, we'll make it grow faster, we'll make it more innovative, we'll make employees stay longer, we'll make employees perform better, and so on, and so on, and so on. It is fairly simple to do. You need to focus on results and relationships, but I just want to make this point. You can't buy it. You cannot buy happiness at work with perks and promotions and bonuses. It's never going to work. And I gave you some tips on how to do it. I would be so happy if you would connect with me. You can always find me on LinkedIn. You can find my blog at positivesharing.com. And of course, you can send me an email at alexander@Woohoo.Inc.com. So thank you so much for your attention. And I hope you go out and make your organization a little happier.
Alexander, wonderful. Fantastic. Really good to hear that. Again, this is something that it's not in an MBA, it's not in a training manual. These are the things that we have to think about and also understand that we have to keep working at it, right? Almost like a muscle. It isn't just something that you read, you learn, and you do. You have to kind of keep thinking about it. And again, what you were saying, this emotional side of being a leader is really important, right?
Well, people are emotional creatures. That's just the way we are. We cannot deny that. I think if we try to pretend like our employees leave their emotions at home and then they can come to work and be robots and be perfectly rational, that's just not how it works. Emotions are a huge part of how we make decisions, of how we interact with others, of how we work, and that's why we need to focus on making our employees happy. And as you say, Peter, it is an ongoing process. You're never done with this. That's why a lot of companies focus on the other stuff, because you can put in the gym and it's done, and you can put like a check mark. The problem is it doesn't work. You need to focus on results and relationships.
Just a couple of questions before we wrap up. So this is from Josipa. How to approach teaching managers to give out more positive feedback? Are the educations or training actually effective?
Yes, they are. And you could obviously, I think the best way would be to hire me to do it. I'm kidding. You could absolutely do that, but this is about making it very practical for people, showing them that this is not something that is complicated or difficult. It's about, here are some simple ways to do it. I'll give you an example. I talked to a CEO of a company in the US who every morning puts 10 coins in his right pant pocket, and every time he gives an employee positive feedback, he moves a coin from the right pocket to the left pocket, and he cannot go home before all of the coins have moved. So he can't go home before he's given at least 10 employees positive feedback that day. So making things practical for managers, so they're like, I can do this, and then showing them that this is not fluffy and soft. This will make you and your team better able to meet your business goals. I think those are the two ways to convince managers to actually do it. And the managers who can't do it, get rid of them.
Another quick question. This one is from Sophia. What is the hardest part of implementing the change?
The hardest part, I think, is what you mentioned before, is to keep it going. It's very easy to backslide and say, okay, well, we're making a happiness program and we're going to do this and this and this and this. And then 6 months later, you're like, oh my God, we forgot to follow up on it. So keeping attention on the process, I think, is very important. And two things that can help here is put somebody in charge of the process. More and more organizations these days have a chief happiness officer, somebody who's in charge of the happiness project to make sure that we're actually doing things. And the other thing you can do is measure it. Measure the results in happiness and connect that to business outcomes, because that will give you the energy to keep the project going when you see that this is actually making a difference.
There was actually one thing that you mentioned a little bit earlier on, again, about the two things that really make people happy, that really stand out in terms of happiness for people at work. And one of those was the results. And when you said that to me, I kind of started to think about, maybe not always about the results, because sometimes we don't have the big results, the overall results, the good results, because sometimes we have negative results, but maybe it's more about the validation of what they're doing to contribute to the result, because sometimes we don't always get the results we want, right?
Exactly. And in that case, like let's say a team has been working really hard on something, but they didn't quite get to the desired goal. What you can always do is you can recognize the effort. Wow, I saw you working so well together. I saw you, implementing a lot of new ideas. I saw you doing your best, and I can really respect that, regardless of whether or not they achieve the goal. Sometimes employees are super lazy and don't do a good job, and they achieve the goal anyway. Yeah, right?
Absolutely. So effort is really important as well. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people don't have to do a lot of effort at all. They manage to cut corners, but they always get the results. So effort is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, and something you can also recognize and praise is positive qualities in people. Like you can go to Lisa in the research team and say, Lisa, I really admire how you're always so friendly. You're always open to new coworkers, always ready to answer questions and help them out. You're an amazing person to have. I'm so glad you're in this company. So that's another way to get positive feedback.
Yeah, really sort of identifying those qualities in each employee, whatever that is, and they could be very different, right? But it makes people feel good. Listen, I wish we could continue this conversation and you share even more about what you're doing and sharing the happiness across the world. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up right now for us at HR Week. Thank you so much. And again, you're listening, you're curious, you'd like to know more, you can reach out to Alexander directly over LinkedIn and take those conversations forward. Listen, Alexander, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you again.